Hi, everybody. Happy holidays. It's Mr. Matthew from Choice Tutoring, and welcome to another Ask the Owl Minute. And today we're talking about the Edu-Train. Choo-choo! What's that about? Well, remember, no child left behind has always been just a slogan. What does that mean? Well, let me explain it. Have you ever seen a teacher's edition? As a parent, you probably have never seen these or heard of them in your life. It's because they're in your child's teacher's desk. They're larger books, they're spiral bound, and they contain the instructions on how to conduct a lesson. Now, I've seen many different kinds of teacher's editions from many different companies. Not all of them are like this, but some are scripted down to the word, with no room for ad-libbing. So what that means is that when you go to a classroom and you hear a teacher give this lesson, and then you go to another classroom and you hear another teacher give the same lesson, both of those teachers are going to say the exact same things. You go to every classroom that teaches from this teacher edition, you're going to hear the exact same words. And it's important. These lessons are also timed. So if the lesson begins at 9:05 a.m. and ends at 10 a.m., that's the time your child has to learn the material. If your child doesn't, well, we're going to get to that because there are problems when that happens. And then these lessons are also paced. So, and it's amazing when you read these. It's almost surreal. You open it up and literally everything is scripted, even down to the timing. Nothing is left to chance. So the instructions say, all right, read this section for 3 minutes and then give the children 30 seconds to respond and ask 2 children for responses and answers, and then give another 2 minutes for discussion. And it moves on like that. And if you think this doesn't matter, oh, yes, it does, because there's usually an administrator during observations in the back of the room watching teachers to make sure that every bit of pacing is followed. And if they don't follow that pacing, well, that teacher could get into a lot of trouble. In fact, if a teacher stops to help your child and goes off the pacing, well, that's a no-no. If a teacher continues to do that, well, that teacher could find him or herself looking for another job. And that is if another school wants to hire a teacher who doesn't follow the pacing. Yeah, that's how it is. And it's pretty rough. So what happens then if your child in those 50 minutes doesn't get the content of the lesson? Well, that's too bad, because after that, it's time for another class. And your teacher can't follow up for the rest of the day because that's not in the scripting, right? And so then there's homework. So a page of homework with problems that based on math that your child doesn't get and homework that your child doesn't get. And there's a grade attached, which then causes anxiety. And then the next day comes and your child still doesn't get the material even after the homework. And so then there's more homework and more confusion and choo-choo, choo-choo-choo. And there goes the Edu-Train, and your child's just been left behind. Now, you'll hear a lot of people, a lot of educators, a lot of administrators, district officials who just praise some of these lessons, saying how wonderful and inclusive they are. But it doesn't really matter how inclusive that lesson is if it doesn't include a space for your child to understand it. And that's the important thing. But really, what schools are aimed at are this coveted A+ rated school. This rating is one of the most wanted things by schools. And what does that mean? That means that test scores are going up and up. Scores are going up. But if your child doesn't test very well and your child isn't understanding the material, then choo, 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 Well, yeah, this is what the schools want. If your child doesn't have it, then your child just isn't falling in line. Is it your child's fault? No, but that's part of the system. And the system is meant scripted, timed, paced learning that gets test scores. Now, if your child continues to not follow this, well, then it's time for interventions. And these interventions are usually meant to bring your child back up to a place where he or she can function in the classroom. The only problem is that these are also interventions that need to work within the scripted, timed, and paced environment within these wonderful inclusive lessons. And if your child still can't figure it out, then those interventions aren't going to work. And then your child's going to be cycled into the special education program. Now, granted, look, there are legitimate reasons to put a kid in special ed. There are disabilities that exist. There are problems that kids have, but special ed is still a burden. It's still a label that we tie onto a kid's ear, and it's like in front of everybody. And a kid tends to sometimes think, well, I must be stupid. And look, I'm in the special ed class. What's wrong with me? I must be dumb, you know. And I'm of the opinion that some kids just need the right intervention, not interventions offered by schools necessarily that are part of the scripted, timed, and paced curriculum, but the intervention that's correct for a student. Just putting a kid in special ed because they're not fitting in with the program, it's not the right thing to do, but it's sometimes all school has to do with your kid. If your kid doesn't fit, well, then the system states, choo-choo, choo-choo. And your child's just been left behind. So what's the alternative? Well, I have the alternative. It's my company, Parents' Choice Tutoring. What happens to Parents' Choice Tutoring? A different way. I don't have a script. Yeah, I teach from books, but every lesson is done custom made for your child. Okay? Comprehension sets the pacing. I don't move on and I don't move forward until I'm confident that your child understands what I'm talking about and understands the material. Maybe your child might forget and the next week we have to do it again. That's okay. We come back and repeat as needed. If your child forgets again 2 months from now, that's okay. We can repeat as needed. Okay, just no choo-choo. I do one-to-one lessons, small group. I don't have grades. I tell kids, you're doing great, you're doing good, or let's try it again. All right? Feelings matter to me. You're not feeling good today. Your dog died. Okay, let's come back to some of the harder things later. Let's do what you feel like doing, and then we'll come back to it when you're feeling a little bit better. And then ESA is available. And if you don't know what ESA is, Empowerment Scholarship Accounts, you can ask me. This is funding to help finance your child's education through me, through other means, private schools, etc. Look it up. You may find it very useful and very revealing what's available to you. For me, when a child sees progress, it builds confidence. When a child has confidence, it builds progress. That means your child isn't getting the choo-choo. Your child isn't seeing the caboose. Your child becomes the engineer. Your child is running that train now. Steam up. Who knows where your child's going to go now? Buckle up. We're in for a wild ride. My name is Mr. Matthew. I run a business called Parents' Choice Tutoring. Call me now, 480-382-9595. You can email me, matthew@parentschoicetutoring.com. You can find me on Facebook at Parents' Choice Tutoring. I use the hashtag ask the owl. Hoot. I may just be the teacher or tutor that your child's looking for. I may be just the teacher or tutor you're looking for. Parents' Choice Tutoring. Education that fits.